Yo, what up, guys? It's Kevin. We are back again. Today we're going to talk about Enchanter Clickies for TLP servers. We're just going to kind of go in order from Classic down to Eldon. And this list isn't like a list of every single Enchanter Clicky that's in the game. It's just like the most useful ones that are going to improve like your quality of life. And some of them are more useful than others. So just kind of pick the ones that are best for you. And I may change the list at some point in the future as well. So just make sure you check the actual website for the most latest list. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content, and let's get started. So the first item here is Blue Ceramic Band. I don't know if this actually comes out in Classic or not. It might not, but this is a good item because it casts Shallow Breath, which is like a minor direct damage. And the reason this is good is because you can use it to put a couple points of damage onto a mob when we have a mob charmed. You won't get full experience unless you do some type of damage to the mob. So if you can just click this on the mob you're killing while your charm pet attacks it, it'll enable you to get full experience. Next we have Journeyman's Boots. This is just a run speed modifier. Obviously this is a no-brainer here. Rod of Infinity Thought is a right-click clarity item, and you can actually click this on anybody. They don't have to be in your group, so that's really nice, and you can class it on level 1s and things like that. Shield of the Immaculate is a instant cast Cure Disease with a 1-second cooldown. Moving on to Kunark, we have Bracer of the Hidden. This isn't really like a high priority item, but it does instant cast See Invisible, so you can use it as both a clicky against dispels, and you can also just use it for fun, or if you need See Invis. Earring of Blazing Energy is a right click, it'll cast Feedback, which is your damage shield spell. This is really nice because I do cast Feedback back quite often on my Enchanter, and I don't have to memorize it when I get this earring, which is really nice. Goblin Gauze something Ring. This is a right click in Viz versus Animal. This is good to break charm pets. You do need to target yourself to use this, so just keep that in mind. And we'll go over some other options too that we can use instead of this. Just pick whichever one you prefer. It's more of a preference thing. Next we have Inled Jade Hoop. This is right click High Elf Illusion. Should probably be in the illusion guide, but in the same time it's only for enchanters. I figured I'd just throw it on here just in case you wanted to get this. It's not like a super high priority. Mana Robe. This again for an enchanter. This probably isn't a high priority for enchanter because generally enchanters aren't using a lot of mana unless their charm breaks. But you can pick that up if you can. Ring of Stealthy Travel is right click Gather Shadows, and this is good because it's only a 2-second cast time, which is the lowest cast time in Viz you're going to be able to get on TLP servers for a long time. And this also can be used to break charm pets as well, so maybe if you don't want to target yourself, you could potentially use this instead. You don't necessarily have to get both of these items, but this is a really good item to have just overall. So if you don't want to get the Goblin Ring, this is perfectly fine for breaking charms right here. Shishar Nullifier Staff. This is a right-click Tashania, which I think is like the level 30 or maybe 41 version maybe of Tash. It has a 2-second cast time. Your 1.0 Epic gives you Speed of the Shishar. This is a haste item. You can cast it on level 1s, and it's just a nice quality of life item to have in general. For Vilius, we have Illusionist Slippers. These are right-click invisibility, and I don't actually have these, but I'm assuming you can probably click these on other players since it casts the actual invisibility spell, as long as they're in your group, that is. And you don't have to do the Illusionist one. You can do the Kale, the Thurgadin, or the Plan of Growth versions. Next we have Illusionist Pantaloons. This is right-click Clarity. This one isn't as good as the Rod of Infinity Thought that we spoke about earlier because this has a 15-second cast time on it. So if you don't get the rod, you can pick these up. But since the cast time on it's so long, it's really not that useful. It's almost better just to mem the spell. In a lot of cases, you probably will have the spell memmed anyway. But if you want to pick these up, you can. Flowers of Functionality. These are not a requirement. I'll give you 50 to ever resist based on which flower you have. They're from Plan of Mischief. Next we have Polymorph Wand Forest Fairy. I could probably take this item out for enchanters. It's just a right-click illusion and levitate. It comes off the Daybreak store, but it won't show up until at least Vilius and maybe up the pop. but if you want to get this, this is available in the store at a certain point, so just keep that in mind. For Looseland, or Luckland, we have Attuned Spire Shard. This is a item that will port you to the Dreadlands, to the Wizard Spire area. It's not a requirement, but it's nice to have. Bracelet of the Shadow Hive is a right-click shrink item, and for Enchanter, shrink isn't as important because you can illusion into smaller races. But if you want to pick this up, you can. You can't cast them to anybody in your group, which is nice, and it only has a 1-second cast time. Circle of Smoke is a right-click gate. I try to get this on every character I can because I really like not having to memorize gate on any of my caster classes. Flowing Gossamer Cloak is right-click Levitation Cloak, and this is probably going to be your best bet for a levitation item. It's fairly common. It comes off of She or Shay and Akiva Runes. It's a fairly common drop, and it's just a right-click levitation for 5-second cast time on it, which is pretty short. So I recommend getting that if you can. Gloves of Warding, not really required here. You got plus 50 magic resist. Cube of Emptiness. This is a right-click Dispel. It only has a 5-second cast time, so this is pretty decent. There are better options, but we'll talk about those in a minute. Jade Skull Ring is also right-click Dispel. This is a 7.5-second cast time, so it's a little bit longer, so it's not quite as good. Kodiak's Robe of Heightened Focus. This is right-click 5 mana regen. Not 100% required for enchanters, but obviously it will help your mana regen out if you can pick this up. Memory, I would say, is a must-have, although this item is extremely rare. It comes off of the Exiled, which is like the second mob in the Curse cycle. It's a right-click Memory Flux, and this is really good for a really long time. So if you can farm this out, I would recommend doing that. Opaline Charm is another Gather Shadows option if you can't get the ring from Kunark. This is a 3-second cast, Gather Shadows, which is a self-only invis. Ring of Immobilization is a right-click Root, and this is really nice. You don't have to memorize Root. It's only a 2-second cast time, and it casts the Immobilize spell. Ring of Resistance, not really required. Gives you 10 to all resists in the form of an AA, so pick that up if you want to, but again, not a high priority. Silver Band of Secrets will give you 250 extra mana. Not really a super high priority as an enchanter, but nice to have some extra mana pool. Wand of Filth, right-click is a right-click Endure Disease. And I like to put this on here because the casting time on it is really low. It's less than 1 second. So I would pick this up if you can. It's a fun toy to have, but it's not required by any means. Wand of Imperceptibility. This is another shrink item. This is a self-only shrink. Again, as an enchanter, not a high priority since you can turn into a short race. It has 8-second cast time. Wand of Tranquility. This is a KEI Clicky that comes from Beck's Stall. Comes from the North Blob. And you can only cast this on your group. You cannot cast it on other groups. So let's keep that in mind. But it is really nice to have. I'd pick that up if you can. Wristband of Secrets is the best and fastest dispelling item in the game. As an enchanter, I would say this is a really high priority since enchanters are more of like a debuff and buffing class. Being able to strip down debuffs really quickly off of NPCs can be really useful in certain situations. So I would place this as a high priority as an enchanter. It will take off 4 at a time, and it only has a 3-second cast time, and you can just plow through debuffs with this. These last two are just Spirit of Wolf Clickies. This one's from Castellum. It's a quest. We've got to kill Kadi Shah to get it, though. And no one really farms Kadi Shah because this is kind of a pain. An easier option are these Lord Ciro boots. Those are Sao too. And again, these are both Sao, self-only Saos. Starting at Plains of Power, CT will be revamped, the Temple of Khazak Thal. So now you can get Boots of the Mosquito, and these are a right-click invisibility versus animal. And for these, you actually do not need to target yourself. So these are technically the fastest way to break charm in the game. And it can be kind of rare. But these are really, really nice. I would get these if you can. Celestial Cloak is a right-click mana regen in the form of an AA. You pick that up from playing a time. Coral Shard is just a minor illusion. It's just kind of a toy. I figured I'd throw it on here since it's Enchanter unique. but it's just a right-click fast cast minor illusion, not a high priority. Earring of Celestial Energy is a right-click AA grant to 20 all resists. Again, you don't have to get this, but it'll help you resist out if you can. I Have Dreams will give you 400 to maximum mana. Whether you want to get this is up to you. Typically, by Pains of Power, you're not having any mana issues unless you're dying over and over. But if you want to pick that up, you can. Manacle of Disruption. This is another Gather Shadows option. If you can't get any of the other ones, this comes from the Crocodile on Plane of Earth and has 3-second cast time. Romar's Pantaloons and Visions. This is right-click Speed of Allen. This you definitely want to get. This is going to make your life way easier. People are constantly going to be asking you for the haste buff, and this is a right-click haste. So pick this up as soon as you can. Serpent of Vindication. This is a right-click slow. This is probably the single-handedly most useful enchanter item in the game for a long time. It's a right-click slow effect. It's only 3-second cast time. It'll cast Forlorn Deeds. So this is going to be like a #1 priority for an enchanter. Next we have Silken Augmenter's Pantaloons. This is right-click Tranquility. And you don't have to get this if you have maybe the KEI wand. This is just a minor upgrade to that. This, again, is group only. You cannot cast it on other groups. Next we have Silken Augmenter's Robe. This is right-click Shield of the Malon, which is your Plane of Power shielding. This is really nice to have. I'd recommend getting this if possible so you don't have to name your shielding. Shaw of Eternal Forces is technically best in slot since the shoulder stats on this are really strong. It will also increase your mana regen by 8 in the form of an AA. So you can pick these up if you want. I wouldn't personally put these as a really high priority, but if you can get them, go ahead and pick them up. The Bindin Corinsadia, or Enchilada, not sure how to say this one. This will give you this is a quest, and it'll give you the ability to gate to Plane of Knowledge using like a reagent. If you don't want to bind in POC, you can pick this up and gate there from wherever you're at, and then maybe use your bind as like a second bind point. Depends on how you play your character. You may or may not want this, but I thought I would throw it on the list. Veil of the Inferno is not necessary unless you're going for like super best in slot. If you can right click this, it'll give you 180 HP. Wand of the Vortex is another Dispel wand. This one has a 4.5-second cast time, and it'll cast Annual Magic on the mob, which will do 2 debuffs. Again, this is optional. It's not the very best one, but if you can pick this up and you don't have like the Wristband of Secrets, this is a nice addition to your arsenal. And lastly, we have Lost Dungeons of Norath. We got Cloak of the Fleeting Foot. This is right-click Sal. You can cast this on anyone, not just yourself. So this is really nice to have. Whether you want to get this is completely up to you. It's not required by any means, but it is a fun item. Dark Flacetary is a regen item. You can cast this on anybody. The quest is kind of long. Again, this is another optional fun item to have. By the time you're in Planes of Power, the really only main use you're going to get for this is if you're maybe like trying to buff low-level characters. But I like to have it because it's fun. Next we have Dusty Cap of the Willbreaker. This is the best Eldon item that you're going to get, and this is also really good because this casts Aura of Quilios, which is equivalent to Voice of Quilios, your Plane of Power mana regen spell. But what's nice about this item here is you can cast it on level 1s, and you can also cast it on other groups as well. So this is like a must-have, in my opinion, for enchanters. This is like a high priority chase item. You're definitely going to want to pick this up. And it only has a 4-second cast time too, which is nice. And lastly, this isn't an actual Clicky. Let's see if sometimes this bugs out at the bottom. Here we go. This is an augment. This is Slime-Coated Shard of Hate. And this will make your Tash spells do 80% less aggro. And it will decay as you level up, so it's not like good forever, but it is good for a little while at least. And this item's also pretty rare. I think for our guild, we've only maybe seen 4 of them in like 3 years, but we might have had bad luck as well, I don't know. But I wanted to include this even though it's not a Clicky because this is really nice to have. But that's pretty much everything. Just make sure to check out the website for the latest updates, and if you like this video, please make sure to like it and please subscribe. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.